Welcome to Trinity Church of Austin. I'm Sid Hall, Trinity's lead minister. Because of the coronavirus emergency, we are streaming our service over the internet rather than holding in-person service. We are taking the pandemic seriously and following the guidance of the United Methodist Church, the United Church of Christ, as well as the CDC. We are closing our doors to gatherings for the foreseeable future. Phone numbers for texting prayer requests, a downloadable order of worship, email address for Pastoral Care, and instructions for supporting Trinity are in the description of the YouTube video. And much of this information will also appear on the screen. As early as the 6th century, a theologian described God as beguiled by beauty. The Creator was lured to create by a longing for beauty, and so set in motion a world of immense diversity and generativity. We were made for this divine generativity. We were made inherently worthy, not by our doing, but by simply being. All things are beautiful, not by a standard of pretty as seen by our eyes, but by an essence of sacred worth that is sensed by the Spirit. In this worship series that we begin today, entitled Beguiled by Beauty, we will dwell with the God of divine beauty, who is deeply in love with us. Together we will practice returning that divine passion as we fall more fully in love with creation and with each other. The message today is entitled Beauty, Contemplation, and Radical Compassion. At the end of our welcome time, we will light a candle to begin our worship together. It will be an opportunity to create sacred space. If you have one at home, I invite you to pull that out so that you may light it as a part of that. Later in the service, we will also be serving communion today. And so if you have particular elements of food and drink that you would like consecrated, please bring those out as well. You are welcome to use any food or drink that you have in your home for communion. Please know that whether we're meeting face to face or over the internet like today, we want you to know that at Trinity we believe that no matter who you are, who you love, what you believe or don't believe, you are welcome in this community. Welcome to the celebration, my friends.
All things are beautiful, not by a standard of pretty as seen by our eyes, but by an essence of sacred worth that is sensed by the Spirit. This is the root and heart of compassion and justice. Beauty is the threshold to divine goodness and a door into radical compassion. Contemplation trains our spirits to see this deeper truth. Over the next 6 weeks, we will pursue a contemplative life to deepen our spiritual capacities so that we might live as beloveds of God who extend goodness in the world.
For the beauty of the earth, for the glory of the skies, for the love which from our
everyone! Welcome to this week's Children's Time. This week I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about what I've been doing during quarantine and give you a little bit of advice. So one way that I've been spending a lot of my time is watercolor painting, which is one of my favorite things. And I like it a lot because it's something that you probably have all the stuff to do at home. So you need water, a paintbrush. Just one is fine. You don't even need this many. Paper. Watercolor paper is recommended, or just something sturdy. You want it to be thick because you don't want it to get too warped. And a watercolor palette. You don't need one as fancy as mine. You can make great art with anything, but this is the one I have. And here are some things that I've worked on. Here's a piece I recently finished. This is fun because it's called a still life, and you can do this at home so easily. You can just set up whatever cool things you find around your house and sit and draw and paint it. It's great. Currently, I'm also working on this castle door. It's a work in progress. And then I have another fun work in progress, which is this great piece of mushrooms, because who doesn't like mushrooms? I wanted to do a demonstration, but I didn't really have a lot of time. So hopefully we'll get to see each other again soon and we can share our art. I'd love to see some of the stuff you've been working on Facebook or something like that. I really miss all of you, and I hope you're staying safe and healthy and having fun with your family. Bye, guys.
Hi, I'm Tim Brace, Director of Music at Trinity Church of Austin. For this series and our meditations, we're going to engage in Visio Divina, which is a form of divine seeing in which we invite God to speak to our hearts. Please sit in a comfortable position, relax your body. In Visio Divina, we gaze at an image and are present to it without any particular goal other than allowing it to speak to us wordlessly, with a divine voice. Allow your mind and heart to receive the beauty of the image and the music, the movement, the colors, the patterns of image and sound as an encounter with the divine. Or sit quietly with your eyes closed and listen to the music, opening your heart to the sounds of the instruments, the movement of the harmonies, the patterns, and the richness of all of these together. Receive this music as an encounter with the divine, and let it share with you the beauty of creation.
Good morning. I'm Mark Moore. I'm the Associate Minister here at Trinity. Each week during this segment of the service, we receive dozens of prayers. So please keep your prayers brief. And if we don't get to your prayer in the time allotted, feel free to type your prayer into the YouTube video chat box. And we record all these prayers and review them later as a staff. I now invite you into a time and an attitude of prayer. Are there prayers now that you would offer for our lives and for our community? Please text your prayers to 512-766-3123. For Kirk German's birthday tomorrow, joyful and healing spirit, receive our prayer. A prayer for the memorial for Marge Philbrook, that it will be filled with wonder and hope for the future, healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. A prayer for the safety of protesters in Austin today, healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. A prayer for healing for Kim Holland, who has multiple serious injuries after a very bad car accident. Healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. Prayers of comfort for my mother in the loss of her husband of 65 years. Healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. Prayers of healing for Cherish Reynolds, whose mother died this week. Healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. Prayers for the leaders of our country, that they may seek God's guidance. Prayers for all those struggling with mental illness in the midst of pandemic and economic and political crisis, healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. Prayers for Leah and her family. Blake, Donna, Denise, Marilyn, Madison, Leo, Scott, Pam, Christine, and Bella, justice and peace, healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayer. Continued prayers for the healing for Solomon, who had his last chemo on Friday. Joyful and healing spirit, receive our prayers. Let us hold these prayers and those cradled in the silence of our hearts in a moment of peace. Please hear this prayer. God of beauty, thank you for water. Thank you for life. Help me help you to give life to all for the beauty of the earth. Amen.
For this series, we are singing the Lynn Unger song, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, for our song of reflection. This song is set to the words of the Sufi mystic poet Rumi. Lauren has provided our piano accompaniment. Please stand in body and/or spirit and sing with me.
Now is the time we bring forth our offerings. In our worship space at Trinity, we always had two opportunities for our offerings: a wooden bowl for the programs and ministries of Trinity. And even as we're now feeling the tension between continuing social distancing and the desire of many to return to shopping and dining out and worshiping together, your support of Trinity remains critical for us to meet the commitment we made to put the well-being of this community and the broader community first in our hearts and in our actions. And that means to continue worshiping online for a while longer, and to continue paying the dedicated folks who work with our children and our hourly staff, and to make our facilities available to Hope Food Pantry and the Homeless Task Force. And we also have a woven basket for a special offering for that broader community. This week, it's the Montopolis Friendship Community Center. Montopolis Friendship Community Center was founded in the 1960s by Trinity member Velma Miles. She did this with the help of Trinity United Methodist Women and eventually the Methodist women of the whole Austin area. This community center promotes child and family service programs in the Montopolis neighborhood of Austin. They're especially focused on the needs of women and children. And along with Ridgetop Elementary School, the Montopolis Friendship Community Center is Trinity's longest ongoing special offering. Please be generous today. There are several methods by which you can give to Trinity. You can visit our website, www.trinitychurchofaustin.org, and click the Support tab and scroll down that page to find options there. You may download the Give Plus mobile app from either iTunes or Google Play. And you can also text your offering to 512-967-0292 and add the keyword SPECIAL to support Montopolis Friendship Community Center. And if you want to give to both the general fund and the special offering, send two texts. One with that keyword SPECIAL and one without. Please send Trinity your most generous offerings today.
Hi, good morning. My name is Janelle Gola, and it's good to be here with you all this Sunday morning. My family and I are so blessed to be surrounded by the love and amazing actions that this community fosters. I'm going to share a reading with you today. It comes from Some Words on Beauty by Marcella McPhee. All things are beautiful, not by a standard of pretty, as seen by our eyes, but by an essence of sacred worth that is sensed by the Spirit. It is the root and heart of compassion and justice. Beauty is the threshold to divine generativity and a door into radical compassion. Quote, "The difficulty and crisis of the world is overwhelming. It is virtually impossible to bear it without deep resources. A life of prayer does not take us out of life, but deeper into it." End quote. We pursue a contemplative life to intensify spiritual capacities so that we might live as beloveds of God who extend beauty in the world. The second reading is from Ezekiel 31, 3-7. Look to Assyria, once a Lebanon cedar. Beautiful branches, dense shade, towering height. It is top among the clouds. Springs nourished it, and deep waters made it grow tall. Their streams flowed around its base, sending their channels to all the trees in the countryside. So it towered high above every other tree of the field. Its boughs grew larger, and its branches extended out, nourished by an abundance of water. All the birds of the air nested in its boughs. Under its branches, wild animals gave birth to their young. All the great nations thrived in its shade. It was majestic in its beauty, with its spreading boughs, its roots reaching deeply into an abundance of water.
I grew up in an area called Twin Springs. I didn't even know the name, we just knew that we were from Kokomo in that area. But when I was 5, we moved out to a new house in the country, surrounded by woods, and just behind the house, an old cemetery. In fact, the earliest grave that we know of was someone who was a drummer boy in Valley Forge for Washington. So it had a sense of old world right there. And the cemetery was called Twin Springs. And it didn't take much to figure out where it got its name. As you tromped through the woods behind our house, you would move into areas of bog where suddenly you just drop down a foot into the wet soil. And everywhere you went, you'd see little places of spring water coming up. And it was beautiful, and you could also drink it. And we did when we were out playing for long periods of time. A creek ran through it, and it was a beautiful setting. But one of the things that it taught me early on is that what you see on the surface, the beauty that surrounds you, doesn't get there on its own. It takes something down under the ground to make it work. It takes the richness of the soil and the richness of all of the composting that's happened through the ages, generating new life in the midst of that. And it takes water, lots of water. And that water was always bubbling up and was a part of everything. So the beauty was connected with something often that was invisible, but we knew what that was. My grandfather loved the well water in our house so much. He and my grandmother lived in town and would drive out, and grandmother would go into the house, and grandpa wouldn't get in there for 10 or 15 minutes. It's because he was unloading jugs out of his trunk and going to the outside faucet and filling it with water, because he just loved that spring water. You can't beat that spring water. And he would load it all back up in his car and take it home. It was part of his ritual, part of our ritual with him, which was is a lovely memory. The scripture today that we just heard is also about spring water. It's about the cedars of Lebanon. You've heard of those great trees. They are on the southwest range of Mount Hermon, which goes down into parts of Lebanon, Israel, and Syria, and is a rich land of snowy mountaintop and running water and many, many springs that are at the base of the mountain, supplied by that snowmelt. And those cedars thrive on it. You know, cedars, especially the cedars of Lebanon, can grow to 130 feet tall. And some of them are as much as 8 feet wide. Their roots are deep, and they, like the cedars themselves that sort of spread out rather than shoot up tall, the roots do something similar to the branches. Those branches go out, but so do the roots, and they find their way through crevices, and they find vast networks under the ground of these cedar trees. It is one of the few natural forests that's still left in the world, the cedars of Lebanon. Some of those trees, they think, could be as much as 2,000 years old. So it's a very powerful experience, and I got to see them myself when I was in a place called Caesarea Philippi, a place filled with spring water and flowing fountains of an old Roman city that was built in northern Israel. And there, surrounding it on the hill, looking up toward Mount Hermon, are beautiful cedars of Lebanon. And so you get the sense that in this scripture, when the prophet Ezekiel is reminding the Israelites who are at this time in exile in Babylon, which is what we now would know as the ancient part of modern day Iraq or parts of Iran, that they were yearning for the strength of those trees that symbolized vigilance, that symbolized strength, that symbolized endurance, and in some of the poetry of the Psalms that even talks about righteousness, fortitude, and why not? Because these trees were bigger than life. They were the ancient source of boat building by the ancient Phoenicians. That's how they were able to navigate the Mediterranean, because of those cedars of Lebanon. And it's said that Solomon felled trees of the cedars of Lebanon in order to build the temple. So even the temple in Jerusalem in ancient Hebrew lore was filled with the energy of those ancient trees. And so the scripture is a reminder that even when you feel that life is filled with dryness, even when you look out about you and can't see the beauty, remember the trees and remember the source of nurture that was under those trees. Here, let me read it just this little bit again. It says, "Look to Assyria, once a Lebanon cedar, is to top the clouds. These springs nourished it, and deep waters made it grow tall. Their streams flowed around its base, sensing their channels to all the trees in the countryside. So it towered high above every other tree of the field. Its boughs grew larger, and its branches extended out, nourished by an abundance of water. All the birds of the air nestled in its boughs. Under its branches, wild animals gave birth to their young. All the great nations thrived in its shade. It was majestic in its beauty and its spreading boughs. Its roots reached deeply into an abundance of water." Now, I don't know if you're like me, but when I get in a place where I get scared or I can't find any hope, one of the ways that I contemplate is to go to some other place where I've been. And I often go to those woods behind my house. And when I close my eyes, even after all these years, I could smell the hummus. I can hear the bubbling of the spring. I hear the birds in the air. I see the sycamore trees and the maple trees and the oak trees that surrounded that whole area that was part of my grounding, my nurturing. That's what the people of Israel were doing in exile. The prophet was reminding them that they not only come from that place of greening, but they are that greening. They are that strength. They are the cedar tree. Oh, we need that so much right now. It's hard to see beauty when you're quarantined in your home and you're staring at the same four walls every day. It's hard to see beauty when you look out and feel the violence of the reactions of pain and loss that has come from the death of George Floyd, and the reminder of the many, many others who've died at the hands of brutality and systems of oppression. It's hard to see beauty when all those things stir the layers of anxiety in our own lives that we're already carrying without those external problems. And so what is it like to go deep for a moment maybe, or maybe an hour, and listen to your own memories of beauty around you. Then perhaps as you step back outside and look around, you'll see the beauty that maybe you'd missed just a moment before. To talk about creation as being beguiled by beauty, to talk about God as beguiled in looking out at God's creation, what an image and what an instruction for us in this difficult time. One of the things that I treasure are looking for poetry and psalms, modern day psalms that reflect that. And one of my favorite authors has been John O'Donohoe, an Irish priest who died a few years ago at a fairly young age, in his 50s. And I feel fortunate that I've been to the places in Ireland where he was so inspired to write, especially the area of Connemara where he was from, and even had a brew at his favorite pub down the road from his house. He wasn't there that day, but I got to be in the space where, according to the bartender, he was inspired to write most of his books. So I'd like to just read you a poem by him, and it's in his book called "To Bless the Space Between Us." And And this poem is called For Beauty. As stillness in stone to silence is wed, may solitude foster your truth in word. As a river flows in ideal sequence, may your soul reveal where time is presence. As the moon absolves the dark of distance, may your style of thought bridge the difference. As the breath of light awakens color, may the dawn anoint your eyes with wonder. As spring rain softens the earth with surprise, may your winter places be kissed by light. As the ocean dreams to the joy of dance, may the grace of change bring you elegance. As clay anchors a tree in light and wind, may your outer life grow from peace within. As twilight pervades the belief of night, may beauty sleep lightly within your heart. The words that really struck me about that poem this time in reading it were these words. As spring rain softens the earth with surprise, may your winter places be kissed with light. Sometimes we can't see beauty until we go down below the ground, down into the earth, and down into those archetypal fears that are part of ourselves. We stir around in those places, and what we find is there are well springs of wisdom. There is hope bubbling up, that even when we can't see it, it is there supplying the strength and the vitality, the generativity for all that bubbles up. And one of the things that I'm thinking about today too, by calling this beauty, contemplation, and radical compassion, is that sometimes we can't get to the place of compassion until we've allowed ourselves to go down into the place of contemplation, to feel the anxiety, to feel the fear, to stir down into that deep soil and abandon for a moment what we know here on the surface. But there in that place is the birthing place for all of life, the birthing place for our new life, for hope, for us to see beauty in ways that we didn't before. And it's only by going through that struggle that we find that. And then, I believe, we have the capacity for justice, the capacity for compassion in a way that we didn't. Right now, I think we need to expand our capacity for compassion. When I see images from the TV or read articles in the paper, whether it's about the politics of what's going on, whether it's about the resistance happening, the pushback against the demonstrators, whether it's the coronavirus, I want an alternative other than just stepping into pushback myself. I want an alternative to being stuck in a place of anger or hopelessness. And what I find is that when I can turn to something that takes that deep pain and translates it into compassion, then I've got something going. Then there's actually a connection between the beauty of our life, the contemplation of our needs, the compassion that we share, which is in essence creating more beauty for those who may not be able to see it themselves. That we get to be a part of that. Yesterday, I read an article about something that happened here in Austin this week. It's been a horrific week. We've had brutality. We have a child that is in ICU right now because of beanbag bullets shot by the police that just happened to be where the police shot. And hopefully there are some changes that are taking place after an emergency Zoom city council meeting this week that will bring about some changes in police accountability and other ways to contain the rage that's going on. But the thing that really moved me this week was a story that on any other day would be the main story, but it wasn't. But Tom Herman, the coach of UT football, they've been isolating, but now they're trying to find a way to practice together and to do that with safe distancing. I don't know how they're going to do that, but they are. They decided as a whole team to walk down from the campus to the Capitol together. They were all wearing black shirts and they all had on bandanas, masks. And they walked together in silence from the stadium to the Capitol. And when they got there, they all took a knee. They all knelt. They all stood there on knee in silence for 9 minutes, which was, of course, about the amount of time that George Floyd took to die with the knee on him.
My mic audio. Hello everyone. Give me one more second and we will resume the sermon. It'll come back a little bit before where we were, probably whenever it cut out for you, but we should be good to go. One more second. Okay, everyone, this should work.
That on any other day would be the main story, but it wasn't. But Tom Herman, the coach of UT football, they've been isolating, but now they're trying to find a way to practice together and to do that with safe distancing. I don't know how they're going to do that, but they are. They decided as a whole team to walk down from the campus to the Capitol together. They were all wearing black shirts, and they all had on bandanas, masks. And they walked together in silence from the stadium to the Capitol. And when they got there, they all took a knee. They all knelt. They all stood there on the ground with one knee in silence for 9 minutes, which was, of course, about the amount of time that George Floyd took to die with the knee on him. And Herman, the coach, said to the players, boys, we have to do this. We have to be part of a solution that sees the world differently, that believes the world differently, and it has to start right here with us, the UT football team. Folks, that's not where you expect to see justice happening. That's not where you expect to see the inner turmoils of painful contemplation being birthed into new life, new wellsprings of hope. But that's exactly where it happened. And I'm proud of that coach and those coaches and that team for taking that position. What Herman said in the conclusion of his talk is that if black lives don't matter, then no lives matter. I believe that we have the opportunity, even in this season of struggle, this season of pain, to be beguiled by beauty. And folks, we can also be the beguilers. But we can't get there unless we go through our own struggle, our own pain, our own sense of loss and grief. But then we have the capacity to move back up into the world and be people of radical compassion, spreading beauty all around us. Jesus had that ability. To those that had no voice, he went up and said, "Hey, you beguile me. I hear you." To those who had no sense of worth, he walked up to them and said, "You are worthy. You have been created in the image of God. You beguile me." To those who are on the margins and pushed down in every way by the system of Rome, who were told that they have no personhood at all, whether they were slaves or women or the poor, Jesus embraced them and said, "You beguile me." My friends, our challenge is the same. We have much work to do. Join me on this journey of beguilement, of beauty. Let us be part of the solution rather than the problem. Amen.
If you come here in certainty or in confusion, in anger or in anguish, say with me, "This time is for us. This time is for us." If you come in silent suffering or hidden sorrow, in pain or promise, Say with me, this time is for us. This time is for us. If you come and do not know why, to be here is enough. Say with me, this time is for us. This time is for us. Come now, God of forgiving warmth. Come now, God of yearning tears. Come now, Christ of the transforming touch. Say with me, this time is for us. This time is for us. From the corners of the world, from Minneapolis, from Ferguson, from Louisville, from Atlanta, from Austin, from the confusion of life, from loneliness of our hearts, say with me, gather us, O God. Gather us, O God. To feed our minds, to fire our imagination, to free our hearts, to strengthen our resolve to end systemic racism and the violence it causes in our society. Say with me, gather us, O God. Gather us, O God. Come in the spirit of blessing. Anoint us with your oil of promise. Look upon our hearts. Come, liberator of grace, heal us within. Open our eyes that we may no longer approach life as victims of history, but as transformers of hope for a new society where all are honored and celebrated. Accept our morning prayer petition for light to shine on this day's hidden wounds and on this day's tight-shouldered stress and on this day's anguish and violent despair and on all your many children living under the sun. Amen. On the night Jesus was betrayed, he took bread and blessed it. He took wine and blessed it. It was blessed by the anticipated pain of his own inevitable death from empire. It was blessed by the tears of a Jewish people who, even when they were no longer in exile physically, they remained in exile socially. Violence was used to keep a false peace, with soldiers wielding power over the least, the invisible, the forgotten, the inconvenient. Jesus blessed the bread and wine with his own life. Holy it was, holy it is, and holy it always will be. Even in the tears, he saw the beauty around him, the beauty of creation, the beauty of life itself, the beauty of God's face on each of the people he encountered. Come, Spirit of blessing, give us the same eyes, the same heart, the same conviction for justice as we eat and drink. Amen. I invite you now to share with each other, wherever you are, with whatever you have, the bread of life and the cup of blessing. Holy God, you have created us as your own family. You have called us together. This time is now for new beginnings. May we do the work we must do in your church and world while it is still day, before it is too late. May we never tire, nor turn our back, nor believe our work is ever done. For each day we must begin anew. We have tried, O God, to make an offering to you. Walk beside us in our journeying, and leave us not alone, even just with the devices of our minds, but be in us and about us forever and ever. Brood over us, cleansing and renewing and restoring, that we may work to heal our land and our people with strength, with confidence, and with courage. Amen.
Miriam Theresa Winter is an American theologian, writer, and songwriter, a Roman Catholic medical mission sister. She also founded and leads the Women's Leadership Institute at Hartford Seminary in Connecticut. She has written many hymns marked by their themes of inclusion and celebrating the mothering aspect of the Divine Spirit. Wellspring of Wisdom was commissioned by the Hymnal Revision Committee for the United Methodist Hymnal in 1989. Please stand in body and/or spirit and sing with me. Wellspring of wisdom, hear our cry. The way ahead is parched and dry. We seek a source to satisfy our thirst for sanctifying waters. Wisdom for your faith-filled sons and daughters. Dawn of a new day put to flight the terrors of a nuclear night. As bearers of your loving light, we huddle closer to your fire. Lift the lamp of hope a little higher. Garden of grace, your gifts abound. The sacred signs are all around. The whole of earth is holy ground. We learn from all of life, expressing how to grow in sowing seeds of blessing. Call to compassion, help us bring our burning need for nurturing the emptiness of everything to your embrace as we endeavor to proclaim your holy name forever.
Hey Trinity, this is the highlights for the week from your pastoral intern Gus. It's a refugee edition. We're on the road on a bit of a trip to get the summer started here for the kids. We're taking very careful social distancing still and all that, but we thought I'd stop at this gas station and give the update for the week. As normal, pastoral care can be achieved, or you can reach out to Sid's cell phone, which is in the description, or you can email pastoralcare@trinitychurchofaustin.org, and that email, as always, goes to the pastoral staff only, which is myself, Mark, and Sid. Please continue your donations to Hope Food Pantry. You can find information on how to do that at our website /support or at the Hope Food Pantry website, which is hopefoodpantryaustin.org. And Wednesday night, starting this on the June 17th, so not this Wednesday, but the coming Wednesday, from 8 to 9 p.m., Sid will be running a class. It's called The Resurgence of Cosmic Storytellers. It's a video series by physicist and spiritual humanist Brian Swim And it's 10 weeks long, and it's an hour-long class, like I said, evenings at from 8 to 9 p.m. It'll be via Google Hangout. So if you want more information about that, please email us at office@trinitychurchofaustin.org to register. There will also be an adult groups meeting virtually. Sunday mornings, we have the Happy Heretics, the Lydia group, and the Social Justice class. Those are Thursday nights. So those are Sunday mornings. So and then the Trinity Parents Care of the Soul is Thursday evenings at 8:30. You can find out more information if you want to email office@trinitychurchofaustin.org, and we'll send you the links for how to connect there. And that's all I have. So I'll hand it over to Sid for the benediction. Hope everybody's staying safe.
And now may the peace of God go with us. May the power of God sustain us. And may the love of God keep us together forever. Amen.